Historic District Commission to order. Just because we now have the benefit of having a note taker, I would like to do a roll call for the commissioners. So what I would need you folks to do is just state your name and in your location just for the roll call. So I'll just go by who's on my screen first. So Robert, could you just state your name and for roll call, please?
Robert Lebo, present.
Do they have to say what city they're in, Hank?
You have to identify where you're at.
Huntington Woods.
Just wanted to make sure you're not in Tel Aviv. Rick, you're next on my screen. Could you please do roll call? Okay, I'm going to skip over Rick. We'll get him in a second. Steve, you're up next.
Steve Behrman, present in Huntington Woods.
Martha, could you please do roll? You're on mute, Martha.
Martha Schroed, present in Huntington Woods.
And I'm Chris Vogelheim. I'm present in Huntington Woods. And then Rick, would you mind just stating your name and where you're at for the roll call, please?
Sorry, Rick the man in Huntington Woods.
Thank you very much. So the first order of business, Hank, we did get some meeting minutes from the September 2nd meeting, but it was late. Are we in a position to approve those meeting minutes, Hank?
That's up to you. You can do that. That was the first sample of the minutes from the new person who's doing our minutes. If you feel comfortable approving those, if not, you can defer and then we can do them all. I anticipate having them all. She seems to kind of have the hang of it, but it's up to you, whatever the pleasure of the commission is.
Well, I guess I'll quickly ask, does anybody have any issue there with approving those meeting minutes, or we can certainly table till we get the remainder of them. If any of the commissioners have any opinions, I'd love to hear them.
I personally didn't get a chance to read them. I had trouble opening up the doc, so.
There you go. Then that's my answer. We're gonna, I guess I would like to entertain a motion to approve to table the approval of the meeting minutes.
Till the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Till the next regularly scheduled meeting. And I'm gonna apologize in advance, so I don't always act as commissioner, so bear with me, please.
We'll help you out.
We'll move to table the approval of minutes until the next scheduled meeting.
Thank you, Steve.
I second.
And Martha is second. So all in favor, please, if you're on video, you can say aye, but raise your hand too, just to make it official.
Aye.
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 I
Thank
saw
you.
everybody's hand and
Thank you.
so this is where it gets tough, Hank, because just to let everybody know, all the applicants, we obviously need a quorum. So right now, there's only 5 of us present, excuse me. Yes, 5 of us present. So it would need, everybody would have to be voting the affirmative to get your applications approved. If Mark joins us, Mr. Fink, then that would give us at least another person. So I guess we have a couple options on the table. Is that correct, Hank? Would you like to walk through those for everybody before we get started?
Basically, what you can do is you can certainly hear the applications. You can give the applicant a flavor for how the vote may or may not go. At that point, the applicant may want to ask for a table to the next meeting where we may or may not have more commissioners. I can't promise that we're going to have any more or less commissioners next month than we do right now. But I do want to make sure that everybody understands that there is an option available because we are a bit shorthanded this evening.
So if there's any questions about that from either the Johnsons or the Shambands, feel free to ask it now before we get started. Otherwise, I will roll into our first application.
And again, Mr. Chair, they can ask for if we would table it right up until the time there's a vote. But once there's a vote, it's over with, one way or another. So,
Hank?
yeah.
Can you please go through what happens if they table it this month and they come back next month and we still don't have enough commissioners? What would then occur?
At that point in time, you would have to vote on it. Here's how this is. The people that are applying are entitled to a vote this evening if they want it.
Mhm.
Okay, that's up to them. They have that right, and it's theirs to exercise if they see fit. If, for example, there is a motion that comes up and the motion is split, like let's say it's 3-3 and there's no 5, you need 5, or you just 3-2 and you need 5 to pass it. If a motion does not pass, whether it's in the affirmative or the negative, then it's ultimately going to pass because it would die for lack of a motion, for lack of an approved motion. And it would be approved because it would exceed the 30-day limit imposed by Public Act 169. So you have to come to some decision if a vote is taken. If the applicant asks for specifically and says, can you table this till the next month? And the answer to that would be yes, then the applicant has asked for the table, so it negates the 30-day window for the HDC having to act. Or the 60-day window, I apologize, it's 60, not 30. So that's how that works. I just don't want anybody to think that, because you got 5, you're married to taking a decision tonight. Obviously, if the decision appears to be favorable for the people, they're going to want the decision. That's up to them. But typically what we do is we err on the side in favor of the residents, make sure that they understand what their options are. Again, they should feel free to ask questions at any point in time about the votes or voting process, as should the commission. If anybody else has a question, I'm happy to answer it. If not, at any point in time during presentations, we would answer it. Floor is yours, Mr. Chair.
Does the,
Thank you, Hank.
excuse me, Chris, can I ask a question here?
Absolutely. I think there's a couple questions. So Steve, why don't you start? And then I think Mr. Johnson also has a question. So go ahead, Steve.
Hank, if the applicant requests to table, does that require a motion and vote of the commission?
Absolutely. And the motion would be at the request of the applicant. There would be moved to table. That would be how that would have to be phrased.
Thank you.
So, hi, everyone. So just so I'm understanding, we need a majority to pat, or I guess I don't understand. What?
No, you need a minimum of 5 affirmative votes to pass.
So just our odds are better if there's 6 people?
Absolutely. So you have, again, it's like you have 9 people on the commission, 3 were unable to attend this evening. So you would need 5, whether there's 5 here or whether there's 9 here. The more people that are here, the better your odds should you have a couple people that dissent. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that that's is or is not the case, but the more amount of people that you have, the better your odds are. Additionally, there's no guarantee that you can get a full board at any month. So I just want to make sure that that's clear and upfront. But you can go through the process, your case, your presentation, everything can be heard. You just have to make sure that you're if you don't want to vote tonight, then you would need to ask the commission, ask the chair if he would entertain a motion to table. That's how that would have to work. But based on the historic district, there has to be a decision within 60 days unless there is a motion to, unless there's an ask by the applicant to table for their project.
So
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah.
So it just, I guess, in my 2 cents worth, and Hank, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's really no penalty for you to go through the presentation. You're going to hear the dialogue of the commission, and that will at least give you some insight onto how we're approaching this project. So, and then before the vote happens, you can decide if you feel like you would like a tabling. So I guess I would say that there's not a lot of risk to present.
That makes sense. And is there any way to text or email if he's just having computer problems? Maybe he's going to be on pretty soon, or?
He may well be, but I don't have him showing up on here. He could also sign in. I assume he has an iPhone or some kind of phone that he could call in on. But that's not happening. He's having communication difficulties at this point in time.
Probably hasn't figured out about his phone yet.
Could be.
Yeah, Hank, it might not be a bad idea to give him that option because it does work pretty well. But so are there any more questions before we get started?
Yes, Rick DeMannon, can you fix your camera? Nice tabletop.
That's as far as it goes.
No
I
kidding.
have one more question to ask Chris, if that's okay.
That's
And
not
this
a
is for
problem.
clarification of the applicant. Should this application be tabled at the request of the applicant this evening, and he wishes to make changes to the plan and come back at the next meeting, any of those changes, are those fully allowable, and he can make any amendments that he might walk away with or change his mind with in the next month?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. If the applicants or somebody takes away from the meeting some ideas that might help them, or they say, hey, look, that's a good idea, they're absolutely welcome to incorporate them at any point in time before the vote is taken. They're welcome to do that. Conversely, they're also welcome to change it and come back the following month regardless, even if a vote is taken. But there has to be a change. There has to be a material change to coming back with the same plan just because you didn't get the requisite votes doesn't work. There has to be a change. You can't keep like culling the jury until you get the amount of people that you want on your side. It has to be there has to be a change or something to come back with. But procedurally, that would be the way that would go. And I did also shoot Mark an email asking if he wanted to just call in.
Okay, terrific. So I'm going to start with the first application. So this is the matter of the proposed walkway, porch, and landscape changes to the Johnson residence at 26602 Dundee. And I see Mr. Johnson is on the phone. So the floor is yours to present your project, please.
Awesome, thank you. And I will, I'm the landscaping dummy of the world, so I'm going to defer to my wonderful architect, Jeff.
Hello, my name is Jeff Fornari. I work with Great Oaks Landscape in Novi. I've done a couple of the, it says host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, so Hank, I think
Yeah, I can do that.
you can share the plans, or you can either give him, it's up to you how you want to
No, it's fine.
run it.
Let me so one participant can share at a time. Okay, Jeff, you should be able to go now.
Okay.
Okay,
All
Mark
right,
is
there we
also
go.
Mark is joining the meeting, Chris, just so that you know.
Awesome. Yes, I see him there. Awesome. Welcome, Mark.
All right. Can everybody see the plan?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit. There we go. Okay, so this is Dundee. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of, let's see, where's my bar? Okay, it's not showing up for some reason. Okay, so here's, everybody can see my cursor? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so here's Dundee. Here's the existing city sidewalk. This is the existing asphalt drive for the home. And what we're hoping to do here in plan view is replace the existing concrete walkway and replace the existing porch, which is failing, with newer materials, but materials that are gauged for this style of house, something that would have been used more historically in the form of natural bluestone and clay brick pavers. We have expanded the size of the porch a little bit, so it gives a little bit better presence. to the house and makes it a little more comfortable and welcoming up at the top for people that would visit. We have a little landing at the bottom of the stairs, kind of a collection for the 2 walks. And then we've added a walkway that goes over to the driveway. The more people we can encourage to park in the driveway and then walk in that way minimizes the congestion on the road. Then for plantings, we have a boxwood hedge in the front with some hydrangeas behind that. And then we replaced the existing ornamental tree with a new pink flowering dogwood, and then did some plantings out and around the dogwood in the form of hosta and myrtle. And then we also put some myrtle around the existing tree here. If I go to the next drawing, these were, and I hope everybody has seen these drawings already, but these were some of the dimensions showing just kind of how we are fitting that within the scope of the front yard. Here's a rendered version that might help some people understand it just a little bit better as to what we're doing. So still keeping quite a bit of the lawn in the front yard, keeping the plantings up tight to the house. We had submitted the construction details for how we're going to build them. So the idea is that we would use house brick riser to match as closely as possible to the house if we can't find the exact brick. And then the treads again and the landings would be bluestone. And then construction details on how all that would be footed and built for sustainability in mind, and also to follow the building code, making sure everything's footed and so that's not going to fall apart and it'll be long lasting. This is the house now, currently in this picture over here. This is, if I can zoom in just a little bit here, this is the state of the existing front porch. It's literally crumbling apart from underneath. So the porch has to be replaced regardless, especially with the safety of the visitors and guests in mind. And then I think from the landscaping standpoint, we're pulling out this older tree, which is kind of past its prime, and we are putting in a new tree in its place. We're going to keep the theme of the hydrangeas, just going to dress it up with a different type of hydrangea. And then this would all have boxwoods in the front to give it a little cleaner look to it. So what happened there? Host disabled, participant screen sharing.
Hold on, just
No problem.
hold on just a second.
No problem.
There we go. Can you go back?
Yeah, I should be able to screen share again.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, no problem. Thank you. So I mean, I think from a visual, you're still gonna basically see the same thing. It's just you're basically gonna be seeing this area from the street because the rest of it's gonna be hidden with plantings, but it will tie in architecturally. This is an example of the bluestone. That's the best close-up we could do of the house brick itself. These are the current clay pavers that were used in the backyard previously on this job, and that's what we're doing. We're saving some of these from the back patio, but we're gonna use the same clay pavers in the front. This is what the bluestone treads look like as a close-up. They've got a slight rock face to them, thermal top, so they're nice and safe. They're not slippery. And then this is one of the inspiration pictures. It's very traditional, especially for center and colonial houses to have that are brick, to have the bluestone with the brick. So we're really just trying to, minus the portico, obviously, we're really just trying to make the house look similar to this as far as the brick and bluestone combination. Where are we? And then some of the plantings. Here's the myrtle. These are the blue hostas that we spec'd. We've got some anemone behind the boxwoods for some fall color, some geranium roseanne on either side of the front steps for long-term seasonal color, some Carl Forester grasses on the side. And then right now we're speccing the vanilla strawberry hydrangea. We could certainly use a different hydrangea if that was necessary. And then you've got your green velvet boxwood hedge and your pink flowering dogwood, which would flower pink in the spring. And then this is an overview of the existing. That's the existing walkway with the existing porch and then the asphalt drive. So that kind of summarizes what we're trying to do and the look that we're going for. So I'd welcome any questions for clarification if need be.
So Hank, I guess the floor is yours if you'd like to give your summary of this project.
Yeah, hold on, I've got to get him to take his down.
Okay, so let me go stop share.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Basically, actually, I was putting up the same plans, so I don't have a problem with that. But I do want to, hold on here. Okay, can everybody see that?
I can.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So basically what we have again here is we're showing the front of the house that we have here. Again, that's the walkway that he has. Here's the porch that he described. This is the same thing that he just showed you. Again, with the round collector, which might be a little bit different. This is pretty much the same pattern of the front walkway. This would be different. This would be different, and the size would be different. One of the things to clarify that we might ask Jeff is that it has this, with the screen door, if that swings out, the current porch, does that actually come almost to the edge of the porch? And is that one of the reasons that you're making the porch larger, or is it just they want a larger front porch?
It's for a few different reasons. It's one, to make it safer at the top, so there's a little bit more room. I think the entertainment of people coming and going is a little bit different than it was when this house was probably first designed. So, just having places, comfortable places for people to stand while they're coming in and out of the house when they have different get-togethers and things. And then also too, they really want to engage in the neighborhood, and they thought, a little bit wider porch would also give the opportunity for a chair or two on either side, that kind of fits with the character of the house, so that they could be social with the neighborhood. So if they wanted to do that one night, they could move chairs out there and then, move them back type of thing. So.
Okay. And then again, this pretty much shows the sections and how the porch was going to be built. So this is like what you can expect. It's right here shows it as it's going to sit, so that you'll have an idea of what it is. You've seen the materials that he's had on it. So the material palette has already been gone through. So the thing is that now you're looking at the Secretary of the Interior standards, which is what governs the historic districts. And number one, these are the questions that you have to ask yourselves and decide if they work for you. Property shall be used for its historic purpose or placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building and its environment. The use doesn't change. It's still a single family residence. So that standard probably isn't something that would affect. Again, as we go through these, you can feel free to have any discussions you want about them. You can feel free to comment on what I say about them, and you can certainly feel free, if it's the pleasure of the chair, to comment at the time, or we can go back to them. The historic character of the property shall be retained and preserved. The historic materials, alteration of features and spaces that characterize the property shall be avoided. The changes to historic materials or alterations. So that also brings up the question is, can what's there be fixed? It would be one thing to take a look at. 3, each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and the way that it's constructed. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural features or architectural elements from other buildings, shall not be undertaken. Again, it's up to you to determine whether or not the bluestone and other materials and the changing of the shapes, which is all square, rectangular in the front, and adding the circle is a conjectural element from another structure, and whether or not that should be undertaken. Number 4 says most properties change over time, and this is particularly for things that have gone ahead and attained a right. Like if you change something 50 years ago and that's acquired historic significance, that's not going to apply in this case because nothing's been done as of yet. 5 is distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be preserved. What you have to decide is it what's there? First, can it be preserved? And second, should it be preserved? So those are questions that you're going to have to answer. And then 6, deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Basically, this is going to say that there's a way to fix it, you should fix it. If you can't fix it, and that should be demonstrated, and that can be satisfied between discussions between both Jeffs, and the commission, and decide whether or not it can be done or whether or not it should be done. 7 does not apply its chemical or physical treatments, and also 8 does not apply because of significant archaeological resources, which is not what we're having here. 9 is new additions and exterior alterations or related new construction should not be undertaken. You have to consider the new work should be differentiated from the old, which it would be in this case, and shall be compatible with the massing, style, and size, scale, and architectural integrity to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. That's a discussion that you can have, and certainly it bears some discussion. Number 10 is the porch currently appears original. It says new additions and adjacent related construction shall be undertaken in a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. So if the porch is original, what you have to decide is if that was removed, could you put back what was there, and would you do it anyway? So these are discussions that you can have on this. And then going forward, Mr. Chair, the floor is yours to discuss the standards.
Thanks very much, Hank. So at this time of the meeting, it's time for commissioner comment. So I'm going to, just to facilitate the meeting minutes, when you start speaking, just restate your name. I would appreciate that so that we can get proper notes. And I'm just going to pick on you based on where you're on my screen. So Robert, you get to go first today.
Thank you, Chris. Robert Lebo. I'm going right to repair or replace with original materials. That is the standard of the Secretary of the Interior. That is a standard which has been used more than once in this commission. It has been used by this commission for other houses on the same street where this commission has voted to allow repair and replacement using original materials exclusively with no exception. That is how I think that this should be approached. There should not be any additional walkways. A walkway is considered as historic as the porch and the house. Creating a new walkway is creating a false sense of history, and it has been disallowed in the past. We should respect our previous well thought out suggestions and decisions of previous years and stick with what we have done before. So it really comes down to the concrete cap can be replaced, brickwork can be redone, and that's it. That's about all I have to say, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Rick, you're next on my list.
Yeah, Rick DeMannon. Yeah, I agree with Robert. Repair to me has always been the first thing that you do or try to do before you come to the commission. And like I said, I totally agree that it would alter the appearance of the house, create a false sense of history, and that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. That's it.
Thanks, Rick. I'm sorry. I forgot that I'm running this. So I think I have Martha next.
Yes, I agree with the two gentlemen, both Robert and Rick. I think that we need to be consistent about the way we're looking at this. I'm aware that there have been decisions made about porches on the same street in the past. And I'm with the standards and guidelines. We need to keep that porch the same size, the same materials. It needs to be repaired, not replaced. And I agree with Robert too, with regard to the walkway. It was put up there in that size and that direction and with that curvature for a reason, to complement the original architecture. So those are my points of view.
Thank you, Martha.
Mhm.
Steve, you're up.
There was some mention about the size of the porch regarding the safety of it, that there, and I'm really not exactly sure. I might need some clarification on that, whether or not it can accommodate more than one person, or maybe when the door, I think the door swings inward. I don't believe there's a storm door on there. So I don't think you're getting an outward swing on a door, which would take up a lot of room. But can you elaborate a little bit more on the safety issue that was commented to on the size? I'd be asking Jeff that question, please.
Yeah, it just feels like it should be just a little bit bigger when you're standing up there. You know, having been up there and looking at it from just a pure safety functional standpoint, it just seems like it's a little too small.
Do you know the approximate size of the porch?
I
mean,
kind of. No, not off the top of my head. I don't. I don't know if it's 4 or 4.5 feet out from the face. Yeah.
Anecdotally,
off the top of my head.
anecdotally, with a larger dog and a 19-month-old baby, it can get a bit dicey on that porch, especially in inclement weather. That was one of the reasons we wanted to expand it, to try to use it and not just, shuttle in and out, single file.
Well, I'm not objectionable to an increase in the size of it if it can be shown that it's unsafe or doesn't meet code standards for the current sizing of the porch. I do believe that the change in materials is significant enough to cause concern relative to the standards. And I do like the landscaping plan, and I believe that I could be very comfortable with the foliage and plantings and shrubbery that's being brought in. But I do believe that the change in materials and the configuration would not be allowed relative to the standards.
Mark, you're up.
Mark, you're muted. Mark, can you hear us? You have to turn your volume up or something, Mark.
You just went back on mute, Mark. Still on mute.
How about now?
There you go. Welcome, Mark.
I'm having all kinds of problems with this computer tonight. Okay, let me start off with a point of order. As a stick in the mud attorney, I agree with the comments that I've heard so far, but I would point out that Steve is the only one who has asked a question or sought clarification. The other comments I've heard, and I generally agree with all of them, I think are more appropriate when we reach the deliberation stage. And at this stage of the meeting, I think the purpose is to clarify what the property owner wants to do and ask any questions or express any concerns we have about it. That being said, I'll follow the program the way it's been set up so far. First of all, as far as the landscaping goes, it looks really nice to me, and I think I may steal some of those ideas. But moving on to the porch and the walkways, I don't believe that changing the front walkway would be at all consistent with the guidelines. As far as the walkway, the proposed walkway from the driveway to the porch, the guidelines allow us to approve changes that improve the functionality of a property without altering its historic character. And I believe such a walkway would do that. And in fact, I had the commission's approval to do that myself when I was not a member of the commission. But the nature of the walkways that are proposed bother me. The existing walkway is concrete, and I think that's part of the historical aspect, historical character of the property, and the other walkways should follow suit. Certainly, I don't think that there should be that medallion walkway in front of the porch. That would be totally out of character historically. As far as enlarging the porch goes, I will again point out that the guidelines allow us to approve of changes that improve the functionality of the house without changing its character. And I believe enlarging the porch would fit within those guidelines. I think Mr. Johnson is correct. I appreciate his views with regard to, getting a baby and all the assorted accoutrements into the house from the driveway. And I would have no objection to that. But to change the nature of the porch from concrete to bluestone, I can't get along with that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mark. And Hank, just from the point of order, always feel free when I'm running it, because I don't do this every day, that if I did something out of turn, please refresh my Rogers Rules of Order.
No,
But
you're good. You have your comments yet to make.
Yep. And so I will do so. So I have no issues with what the applicant has proposed. When I look at some of the key things for the Department of Interior Standards, I'm very fixated on massing and changes that radically alter the scale of the property and also adversely affect distinctive materials, features, construction techniques that are really relevant because of the way they were constructed, that have historical significance. Flat work, flat concrete, to me is not something that is really to me that distinctive. I don't think it's a defining feature of this property. I think the porch, facing it with brick to match, I think the scale of it, keeping it low, it's not adding a lot of ornamentation, a lot of railings, overhangs, and things that change the prominence of the front door. In fact, I think that these efforts actually support the center entrance colonial aesthetic. I think bluestone and the clay brick pavers are sensitively chosen to both in coloration and the quality of the materials, I think, go well with the historic structure and do not detract from the historic structure. I know that we've had this issue many times that a lot of main entrances into homes did use bluestone, if, obviously in the wealthier homes at the time they were built, and I think it's still a very sensitive material. I don't think that adding the additional walk adversely affects the historic character of the home. I do appreciate the fact that the increased size, having my own historic home, that the sizes of porches and entryways and things are anemic, and having those a little bit larger for both safety and to accommodate is a good thing. And so based on standards, such as number 9, that I don't think that this really destroys historic character. I think that the design of it is sensitive yet is different enough to create false sense of historicism. So that's my take. At this point in time, I would like to, seeing that there are some other folks on the call, there's a couple things. Hank, there was an email. I'm not sure if we have to address that as part of this public participation.
We do.
You should address whatever you have in front of you.
Well, I have it on my computer and unfortunately it just went to sleep. So I'm going to real quick find it. But there was an email that Hank did send. Oh, what time was that today?
Oh, that was for the minutes.
I thought you also had an email from somebody.
That
It was an email from Claire Greco, and
Yeah.
Claire is present tonight.
so she
Oh,
could speak.
there we go. Okay, so I will then open up the floor to public participation. I would ask that you please state your name and your address, and then feel free to speak on behalf or speak about this application.
Hi, my name is Claire Greco. I live at 26586 Dundee, 2 doors down. About 10, 15 years ago, I had also had a porch that was coming apart, and I came before the Historic Commission and I was told to replicate my porch. I was allowed to make it a little bit larger, but as it stands, it is what was here before. The original brick is part of it. And thank you, Robert LeBeau, for telling me where to find matching brick. I matched brick. I have a poured concrete cap on it. The next summer, Noreen across the street at 26551 came to me and told me she wanted to replace her porch and wanted to know how I got mine. And I said, submit drawings for exactly what you have. And she was allowed to build hers too with the exact same porch. So if I understand needing to make it larger, but moving this far away from what is there now, what is historic, I think is a little wrong. That's my take.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak from the public?
Yes, I'd like to speak. My name's Bruce Shaw. I live at 26590 Dundee, and I'm actually in between Jeff and Erica and Claire, who just spoke. And my only question is whether there's any part of the plan which helps to ensure that, if it's even an issue, that I don't receive any more water in between our two houses than I already receive, since we're already in a damp part of Huntington Woods.
Good point.
The intent is not to change the grade from what it is currently. So we're actually not doing, so I'm guessing if I'm facing the house, you're on the right side?
That is correct.
Okay. So yeah, so past the corner of the house, there's not much grading that's going on. It's just gonna be feathering into what's existing. And we're not doing anything down the side yard. So I don't see anything that would change the current water flow as it exists.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bruce. Anybody else from the public who would like to say something? Seeing that no one else would like to speak, I guess we will close the public participation. So Hank, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the time where we have a decision time, right?
Yes, you have basically you have the options. You can discuss once again with the applicant what they may or may not want, what they may or may not be interested in doing, and you can ask for a motion and go from there. Again, you need to come to a decision tonight unless they ask you to table it to the next meeting, and that would be on them to do so.
Could I ask a question before we get into that part?
Sure.
So from a structural standpoint, the porch cannot be repaired. Anyone can stop by and take a peek at it for themselves. It's actually it's separating where the top of the porch meets the bottom of the step, and it's eroding from the inside. The only thing you could do is try to fill it with concrete, but that's a repair that would soon fail. So the only real way to fix the structural stability of the steps long-term would be to replace them. So I heard the first three members that spoke mentioned repair, repair, repair. I don't know of a building official or contractor or licensed landscape architect that would recommend just trying to repair this. So I guess the question would be is, in light of that, would if we have to keep it concrete, would the board be suggesting that we replace the whole thing with concrete?
Mr. Chair, if I might hop in and give some light on the subject. The commission also can approve the complete replacement of the porch as it exactly exists. So in other words, you could use the same brick material, you could use the same concrete porch cap. They may even approve an expansion of the footprint of the porch to give you some more detail with that. As far as the walkways and that, whatever they wanted to do would have to be incorporated into a motion. So if you're saying that, you want to do the same plan that you have here, except perhaps instead of the bluestone, and you wanted to use the same footprint, but you wanted to use the same materials, which is the clay which is the clay brick for the sides, concrete for the top, and concrete step or with the brick face, they could approve something like that this evening, should it be the pleasure of them to do so. And should you, of course, even want it, that would be up to you. Either that, or they can vote on what's before them tonight and render a decision, or you can ask for a table to consider some changes or modifications to it for the next meeting. Whatever you would like. You certainly can take a time to talk to your client.
Okay. All right, yeah. I guess do you mind if I give Jeff a quick call?
Not at all. You can put yourself on mute. We'll give you Chris, do you want to pause the meeting for like 3 minutes, something like that?
I think that would be perfectly acceptable to allow everybody to converse.
Okay, I appreciate it.
So we'll take a break. It's 8:23. So let's just say about 8:26, 8:27, Hank. Make
Yeah,
sure
if
that
you
we're
call
all,
back, open up at 8:27, that'd be fine. For the meantime, we'll just put yourselves on mute until 8:27. I'll put everybody and I'll call everybody back.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We're almost done, I think.
Mr. Chair, I now have 8:27.
Okay.
Meeting back to order.
Okay, so it's now 8:27. We would like to call the meeting back, and we just need to see if we can locate our applicant. Oh, there he is.
Thank you very much for that little bit of time. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you,
So
everybody.
I guess at this point in time, I guess hearing some of the comments, I would like to just make one request that maybe we the commission entertain separating the porch modifications and then maybe the walkway into two separate motions, just to allow for some flexibility there and maybe some better discussion. So if, as people are formulating motions, that may help us along a bit.
Chris, excuse me. I have one question before we proceed any further.
Sure.
In the existing walkway, is there any patterning? Are there lines creating different size segments?
I think it's pretty consistent. I think it's just a standard concrete walkway going up.
With no patterning?
I don't believe so. Let me see if I can find a quick picture here that I could refresh. So I haven't been out to the site in about a month. So let's see.
Yeah, I don't think there's any pattern. There's some creases, but it's just a concrete walkway.
Yeah, that's what the pictures I have show. Just a standard concrete walkway.
That's the photo that I have.
Without the benefit of having pictures from when the house was first built, I can't tell if this is actually the original walk and porch either. We're assuming it is, but I don't know for sure.
Thank you.
I have a question. Hank, is this a contributing resource?
It is.
Okay. Well, we should apply a higher standard than it would be if it was not a contributing resource, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
What it's showing is that on the plans, the original blueprints, it shows the curved walkway as a cement walkway. There's nothing that leads me to believe that it's not original. And the pattern that it looks like in the photo, as well as on the blueprint for the original house, indicate that it's very similar in nature, and it would be odd for that not to be the original walkway.
Chris, if I may speak. Chris?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Mark. Yes, go ahead.
For what it's worth, I went past the house, took a close look a couple days ago, and the walkway is standard poured concrete.
So I guess, Hank, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I just wanted to go back to some of the notes you gave me. So as of right now, we have 6 commissioners, and so that in order for the applicant to have a successful application, they would need 5 votes. And they do have an option right now if they'd like to request for a table if they feel that they could hope at the next meeting to have a different makeup, but there's no guarantee of that. And regardless, if we do table it at the next meeting, we would have to then render a decision either way. Did I get all the legal requirements down there?
That is correct.
Okay, so at this point in time, the applicant does have that option. So I just would like to know if they would like to exercise that option, or we are free to make a motion.
Or they're also free to make a revision.
Or yes, my apologies. And you guys had a chance to confer if there's any revisions you'd like to propose. Now is the time to do so.
Yeah, I think Jeff is gonna to lay out one revision idea and just a couple comments I had, and thanks everyone for your time. And we just moved into the neighborhood. I didn't even know we were in the historic district. So how cool is that? And with regards to adding the second walkway, the purpose and intent was, as we lived here for a few weeks, we noticed with a side door, we were never using the front porch when you pull your car in. And it's a beautiful, facade and house and front door and vestibule inside. And we just, we're not using it. And that was one idea that we had to create that second walkway, was to park in the driveway and use our front door. And point number two I had was I very much respect everyone's comments about keeping the integrity of the house and its historic nature. We absolutely want to do that. I, of course, am biased and agree with what Chris said, that I think this would be a wonderful thing, but that's just my opinion. And, it used to be a 1,400 square foot colonial, and they added an entire house in the back. So I think we've already improved the historic nature of it, albeit, I understand it keeps the aesthetics from looking at the house, but when you're going to the side, it is a completely different, gigantic structure from a historic standpoint. And so for whatever that's worth, that's my comments, and I'll kick it to Jeff to try to make some revisions based off the comments that we had.
So I guess, one of the thoughts we had is, right now, obviously it's pretty easy to see. It looks like we have 5 against, 1 for. So obviously a vote on plan as stands wouldn't be to our benefit. That being said, I'm not sure typically on these, because I don't do a lot of historic. I do a lot more ZBA and things, and there's a lot more back and forth with the board and with the presenters. Do we have an option to talk about an alternative and for that to be voted on successfully? Is there a dialogue we can have back and forth with the dissenters? I also noticed 3 didn't comment on the landscape at all, so I don't know if that's okay. So everybody across the board thinks landscape is fine. It's more the hardscape that we're talking about. And I guess in light of some of the comments, if we were to do, because right now it's just a poured concrete set of steps. So would that mean we'd have to go back to a poured concrete set of steps, or could we do, brick to match the house as closely as possible with a poured concrete cap? Probably leaving the front walkway alone unless we find that's in some sort of disrepair. And then what's the board's feeling about doing a concrete walkway from the existing walkway to the driveway in light of Jeff's comments? So I guess a little bit of feedback from the board members would be helpful, so we kind of know how to move forward. And then in the moving forward of that, does that require, would the suggestion be, yes, table it because you've got to get us a whole new set of drawings, a whole new set of labels, so we're talking about different stuff? Or is that stuff that all can just be talked about and said, yeah, we approve it, but this is what you have to do, type of thing?
Mr. Chair, if I can maybe shed some light on the subject.
Yeah, and don't forget, Robert would like to say something. So I don't know who Robert was asking first. Would you mind if I let Robert go, and then Hank, you can follow up?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, did you use a local real estate agent?
We did not. We were introduced to the seller through a mutual Huntington Woods resident and worked directly with her.
And she didn't disclose to you that your house was in a historic district, nor that it was a historic property?
I don't believe so. She might have, and I missed it, or I didn't quite fully appreciate what that meant from a procedural and update standpoint. But so no, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hank.
Yes, Mr. Chair, to answer Jeff's question, yes. You can have a dialogue, you can have a discourse. Whatever changes that would be discussed on and or perhaps settled upon would then become part of a motion to approve. So the items would be specifically, dealt with. So let's just say they approved the size change of the porch since the porch had to be replaced anyway. And they could approve that with a cement cap, a concrete cap and brick face on the outside, and the same for the stairs. That could be approved this evening in that form if that's what you were proposing. Again, that would be something that you would have to have during that discussion. Additionally, when you have items that may be different, like say you have the front walkway and you said you might have an inclination to leave that alone if that was problematic, then that could be left alone. As far as adding a different one to the side, it would probably make more sense to have that in a different material so that it differentiates the old from the new. So perhaps a paver walkway there would make more sense for that. The medallion or the circle where it all ties in together seemed to be a sticking point for the commission. Maybe if that turns into a smaller rectangular, if you will, gathering point for that, that's something that perhaps is a significant enough change that perhaps the Historic District Commission might accept that. But that's a discussion that you would have to have. And quite honestly, we always encourage these discussions. And if you had something, Mr. Chair, that however you wanted to handle it would certainly work.
I'll just go back to my earlier recommendation. So I did hear a lot of discussion about the porch, and it seems like there's some, been some discussions about, I guess, breaking into these three things. The brick facing on the porch will remain in whatever configuration. There's an option, obviously, to enlarge the porch. And then I guess the last update would be to keep the top of the horizontal surface of the porch, just return it to concrete versus bluestone. And then I guess the applicant was inquiring about whether brick facing on the steps on the risers with concrete treads would be an acceptable piece as well. But I mean, I guess that's one thing that we could discuss if anybody so chooses. Okay, and then the second thing is just obviously the whole walk issue, but I guess I would go back to again to, I think one of the ways to if somebody chooses to make a motion, maybe we could separate into those two components just to see if there's any progress.
Chris, can I comment, please?
Please do so.
I think that the expanded porch sizing is very important for the reasons that were mentioned. And I also believe that the way that the landscaping configures around it, that a visual from the street would be almost not noticeable to anybody walking by. And I also kind of like the idea of being able to use your front door without having to walk all the way down to the sidewalk or across your lawn, or if there's snow on the lawn, walking across the snow. So I think that that second walkway from the driveway to the, to get you to the porch is an important improvement. I think that it could be done in actually just a poured concrete similar to the other walkway. The step, I think it would make sense to put a brick riser on it, and possibly just expand it a little bit in its width to give it a little bit more appropriate sizing to the to this larger porch size, if that was how it's being presented in the plans. So I've kind of come up with a bit of a hybrid comfort level with this, I guess what I'm saying.
Can I say something also, please?
Sure, Rick, and then Martha is also asking to speak. So Rick, why don't you go ahead, and then Martha, you can follow up.
I know that I will not vote to approve anything except for a total replacement of the porch as is, if it is structurally deficient. I know I will not support a walkway, a change in the walkway, or a change in the front walk.
Rick, are you done? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure before I
Yeah.
move on. Okay, Martha, would you like to say something? Martha, you're on mute.
There we go. We keep talking about the size of the porch, but nobody really knows what the size is. It's not called out on the plans. When we asked the designer, he gave us a guesstimate of it. So I don't know how we can talk about doing anything to the porch until we know what the size is. You know, I understand that people want larger porches. It's been like that for like a long time, longer than my house. And people manage to work with it accordingly. I tend to agree with Rick that I would like to see it, if it needs to be replaced, then it should be replaced with the exact materials and dimensions, unless somebody can prove to me that it is unsafe. So far, I don't see that it is. And since we don't even know what the dimensions are, how can we even talk about changing the size of it? It makes no sense to me. So
I'd like to make Martha, just real quick, the second page in your packet, it's called Landscape Plan Dimensioned, does show the dimension size of that porch.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, it's okay. And the only thing that, I mean, just I'll ask the question right now, if anybody knows what the existing porch size is, because I'm sure that's going to be asked next. That would help fill in the blank. So if Mr. Johnson or if Jeff, the landscape architect, if anybody can tell me, oh, isn't there a survey of the existing? Oh, it doesn't tell me a porch dimension though.
Doesn't give it to you.
Yeah. So,
Martha, before anything else you'd like to say before I move on?
I guess that's all I have to say at this point.
And I see that Robert would like to say something. Robert?
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to say that I agree 100% with Rick and Martha. And I'd also like to reiterate that this commission has addressed the same issue in the past, and we were diligent in adhering to the Secretary of the Interior standards, as Clerk Greco can tell us about her porch and her neighbor's porch. I think that if we disregard that standard and a different decision is made, it is not only damaging to the Historic District Commission, but it is disrespectful to the past petitioners. And it goes against our very own previous rulings and decisions. We have well established how this Historic District Commission rules on porches and walkways. And that is what we should adhere to. That's it.
Can you clarify though, didn't Claire indicate her porch was enlarged in size?
She did say so. She said her porch was enlarged.
But you said it was the same exact size. I just wanted to get some clarification on that.
Okay, take that back if that's what I said. She used the exact same materials. She was able to source matching brick, and she used a concrete cap as was there.
Okay.
So, we're either looking for a motion or further discussion. Mr. Fink?
Yeah, I just have a couple of other comments. One being in specific, some members of the commission may remember a few years ago when there was an application before us regarding the mid-century modern house on the corner of York and Huntington. The owners applied for permission to kick out a whole side wall of the house in order to enlarge the size of the kitchen, which was only 54 inches wide. We all said, yeah, that's a no-brainer. and we approved it. Now, that's a pretty significant change, but we approved it because it improved the functionality of the house without changing its character. Change alone is not impermissible. It's only change that changes the character of the property that is impermissible, which is why I don't object to enlarging the porch to make it more functional. But just in general terms, for the benefit of Mr. Johnson and Mr. Forneri, first of all, I was very disturbed to hear, Mr. Johnson, you had purchased the house without being told it was in a historic district. I think that was reprehensible on the part of your real estate agent. You should have been told that and explained what it meant. For both of you, Mr. Forneri, you've indicated that you don't do a lot in historic district. And I think you need to familiarize yourself more with the requirements of work in historic districts and understand the basic rule of thumb is what it is, it is. You know, we don't change things just to make things prettier. And that's the bottom line.
Well, no, I understand that. And with all due respect, it's not a change for aesthetics. I mean, if you look at the stairs are falling apart. They have to be replaced. And there's an opportunity to, through the replacement of making it functionally better and making the aesthetics match the house a little bit more. I mean, I think it would be disingenuous for anybody to argue that concrete steps in front of a beautiful center and a brick colonial is true architecture of that time. It's more along the lines of what Chris had said, where you've got people who have money, you got people who don't, and people that don't, did something that was more affordable. I'm sure, everybody, I could show you pictures and other historic districts and other areas where brick house with brick risers and, some sort of a natural stone, bluestone, limestone. In this case, we just chose the bluestone. It is much more in keeping with historic and how things were done in the old times than just big poured concrete slabs in front of beautiful steps, like in front of a beautiful house like that. So the intention wasn't for me to get this property and because the homeowner didn't know it was in a historic district when the design was first envisioned, I also did not know it was in a historic district. So the design was there to try to not only repair the steps that are failing, because they're definitely failing. It was also to make them more functional and at the same time actually raise the aesthetics to complement the house. I can't imagine an architect ever wanting to, not have the stairs tie in a little bit better architecturally with the house. So that's where the spirit of the design came from. And then once we found out we had to go through a historic commission, we didn't think that the request was that far out of bounds in keeping with the appearance of the house. If for no other reason than primarily that it's only 14 inches off the ground, and the majority of what you're going to see from the street is going to be hidden by the shrubs, as is the current porch. You're just going to see that 4 to 5 foot window, depending on what you allow for the actual step width at the bottom. That's really all you're going to see of the porch, and it would tie in seamlessly with the architecture of the house. As far as the actual walkways, I completely understand, and if that's a concession that we have to make, if the board isn't willing to grant the additional access and improved use of the front door by connecting the sidewalk to the driveway, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. And I'm sure the homeowner doesn't like it, but gets it. And same thing with the front walk. If it has to stay concrete, it has to stay concrete. But that's why we tried to stick with materials that are timeless, true to the architecture and true to the period of when that was being built. We didn't put any unilock pavers out there or something that wasn't in trying to keep with the aesthetics of the house. So that's where it came from originally.
Yeah, I think where the disconnect comes in is in understanding the difference between historic compatibility and historic fact. Because something would have been compatible and might have been done back in the day, the fact is it wasn't, and that's not Yeah, so you're changing the character of the house.
So I'd like to, as soon as you're done, I'd like to hop in there and have a dialogue about that because, I think that, number 9 of our, so the intent of the historic Department of Interior's guidelines were not to discourage additions or changes or reuse of buildings. It was indeed the opposite. It was intended to make sure that there was we were bulldozing these buildings rather than reusing them so that they could live on. So I do not believe that the intent of the Department of Interior Standards is to not allow additions, alterations to buildings over time. All it does is it tries to make sure that those additions or alterations or modifications are done sensitively to not destroy the historic character. And I think a couple things here, when I look at number 9, we talk about the historic materials, features, spatial relationships that characterize differentiation. So center entrance colonial, porch is symmetrical, centered about that entry. The walk still goes to the front door. It is curved in this instance. Again, I will say that flat concrete is not a defining or a specialty material, anything that is to me defining of the nature of the center entrance colonial. The increase in size of the porch is not out of scale where it gives me, it really changes the character of the home or changes the spatial relationships of the front yard. And I think the materials are compatible. So they are indeed different than what was there, but they are indeed compatible with the historic materials. Clay bricks of orange warm tones mate with clay brick on the house, and bluestone. Granted, it was not used in this instance, but is a neutral tone. The texture and such is a natural material. It's not a man-made material that's highly discordant with what's there. So I would say that, again, it's my belief as an architect and worked on historic properties in the past that these guidelines should not be used as a way just to prevent all alterations and all additions to historic properties.
First of all, can I say something also? I'd like to just chime in there. We're charged as being a conscience of the community, and we're not technocrats, and we're not looking at it in terms of pieces. We're looking at it as a whole, as an artistic whole, and that's part of history. And I guess some people don't get that. And that's really important, that we preserve the historic character and keep it the way it was.
So can you all just educate me? I respect your committee. Everyone seems very knowledgeable, and I'm a new homeowner and I want happy neighbors. So it's however we rule, it's all going to be okay, and I appreciate it. But how is changing a material that was similar to the time different than putting on a doubling the size of the house with an attached garage? I would just like to be educated genuinely on that, living in a historic district, should anything, future come up.
Can I answer that, please? I'd just like to say that addition was probably put on well before the historic district was established. And speaking to the materials, it may be that other areas use bluestone, but that was not a material that was ever common to Huntington Woods. And I speak from experience. I've been here my whole life, 61 years. I delivered papers to those houses over there as a kid. And I can tell you, I don't remember ever getting up on a bluestone porch, maybe an occasional slate porch, but not bluestone. And we are trying to maintain the integrity of the whole area as it was conceived by the people who created the design of Huntington Woods. So we are doing the best we can and working with what we have and what the Secretary of the Interior standards have set forth for us to follow. And I think that what we are trying to do here is important. And you know what? You cannot compare the size of your house that was done before the historic district was established to a porch in the front. Your porch is created by an architect who felt that that was the proportion of it and that that was a true and good proportion. And I respect that. So that's my point of view, and I've served on this Historic District Commission. This is my second stint. The previous stint was I was part of the original group that created the Historic District, and I was on as a commission member for 8 years running. I've been on the Planning Commission for, I can't even remember how many years, quite a long time, and I'm back on the Historic District Commission. And I have educated myself about architecture, and we're not talking about another historic area. We're talking about Huntington Woods' historic area, okay? So, you know, it's nice to say that, well, it's kind of like other areas, but this is our area. And so that's why we are keeping to the materials that are there. I have no problem with you replacing with the same materials if that's what is needed for your porch to work functionally again. But beyond that, I'm not a fan of all the decorative work, of all of the, you know, the circle cut in and all of that, because that creates almost like a Disneyland effect. That's like bringing something in from someplace else and introducing it, and it creates a false historic sense. And that is not what the Secretary of the Interior standards are advocate. So
I would like to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, before the motion, can I just add some clarification? Just because there's a misunderstanding. This project was added on to in 2010. So the historic district was in there and it was voted on. And
not
some
by
of
me.
actually it was.
Oh, really? Did I
Yeah,
vote yes or no?
I voted yes.
Hmm,
But
I'm surprised.
but having said that, I just want clarification for the point that
Long
the
time ago.
project was voted on and it did go to the historic district, and it was in the historic district, and it went in, let me just get the date here for you, March 3rd of 2010. And there are approved plans that actually made it through the flood. So I do have those documents. But having said that, Mr. Chair, Rick is certainly free to make a motion with the understanding that some action has to be taken unless the applicants want to take to ask for a table to make some revisions and perhaps to discuss it, to come back with something different for the next meeting.
Can I just ask one more question of three of the board members so I can kind of get their perspective on it? Because I'm hearing some different information. I just need a little bit of clarification.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so I guess so I heard from Claire Greco, and her porch was allowed, but it was the same materials, but she was allowed to make the porch bigger. So I guess for Robert, Richard, and Martha, if we just do a poured concrete set of steps, because that's what's there, is, you know, what's your thoughts on the size? Can the porch be made larger as was approved for Claire's, or?
Well, as Martha said, since we don't know the size of the current porch, I think it'd be possible and stupid for us to make a determination.
And I'd also like to add that if you are going to do that, I need to see drawings that are going to show the front facade of the house with that porch laid out, so we can compare the proportion of what it looks like now to what you plan on making it. But you're not giving us anything to work with by giving us no drawings, no design, no measurements. I can't possibly make a decision willy-nilly and say, oh, well, we'll increase it, what, 10%? How many inches? It's not appropriate.
You know, we're not like Trump. Facts matter.
I can go measure it right now if it would help.
Yeah, I
Like
don't know.
I said, I need to see the design laid out.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, all right.
So just for record, just another point of clarification, there is a front porch elevation and sections included with our packet that does show the scale of the porch in relation to the entrance, but it does not show it to the overall front elevation, but there is some detail provided. And then again, there was a dimension plan. We just are missing what the, I'm trying to find on page.
Yeah, I guess there's no mention of the existing size porch.
Yeah, the
The-
scaled mortgage survey does not, unfortunately did, which is strange, did not survey the existing porch.
Right, but the construction details do show the size of the new porch, as does the plan, so that piece is on there, so. I don't know.
But
So,
we have
Jeff, are you
nothing to
okay if we-
compare it to.
Make that motion if we could.
Jeff, are you okay if we table it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I think that's probably the best interest for us, is to table it and see if we can do up new drawings that show something that might be more favorably accepted by the board.
Thank you. So there has been a request by the applicant to table. Would anyone like to make a motion in support of the applicant's request?
Also move.
So Mark made a motion. Do I have a second? Robert, if you're saying something, you're on mute, unfortunately, so.
Sorry, I muted myself. I'll
That's
second that.
okay. Okay, so Robert has seconded the motion to table. So I'm just going to run through, just for purpose of the minutes in the Zoom call, I'm going to run through everybody and ask them individually. Robert,
Aye.
Rick,
Yes.
Martha,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well to table the applicant. Thank you. So
That will take place at the next meeting, which will be the first Wednesday in December.
thank you very much for the discussion, and we look forward to seeing some revisions. So I'm going to move on for sake of time to our second
Thank you all
applicant.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So
everybody.
our second application is just some decorative driveway border on the previously approved plan for the Shamban residence at 26323 Henry. And I see Dr. Shamban, welcome back. And hopefully you sort of know the drill. So the floor is yours. Please present. And I do believe Hank has a drawing that he could share screen if needed,
I do.
if you don't have it. So somebody decide who's going to share a screen.
I'll do it.
Oh, thanks, Hank.
There's a few things that we have to do. So let me get, let me do this.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you, Hank. So Dr. Shamban, sorry, if you'd like to go ahead and present.
Yeah, so I'm sure we've gotten familiar with this project. This is my third. We're doing it in pieces, but I get it. I mean, it was actually good to go second, so I got the chance to listen from a different perspective. Anyways, so what I don't know if you guys recall. So obviously the current driveway is in complete disarray. You guys approved the the new dimensions, which is essentially from brick to brick of the current driveway, and then it kind of flares out by the road. So what I would like to add is essentially that there's current asphalt / cement that's presently there that will be removed because of the new dimensions. In using that space, instead of having grass, I would like to put the proposed would be a concrete aggregate kind of sidewalk. So when you're stepping out, you're not stepping out on grass, but you're stepping out on essentially right there, concrete aggregate. And essentially, I would not be taking up any additional space. It's going to be pretty close to the, not identical, but it will be pretty close to the current dimensions of what I have right now. And that's pretty much it. I don't know.
No, thank you very much. I think that's pretty straightforward. And Hank, would you like to fill in any additional details?
Yes, I have to. What you were approved for was the maximum width that he could have, was what he was approved for. increasing the width of the driveway brings up an issue that's no longer in the purview of the historic district. It's in the purview of the zoning board of appeals. The issue is that Article 10 specifically says how wide the garage or the driveway can be. And it says it can go from the width of the garage door or carport, but in no case wider than 18 feet between this lot and the parallel to the street. This is going to do that. So what happens is that a variance would be needed to allow this expansion. The Historic District Commission cannot grant a variance. What would need to happen is that you would have to approve that subject to a zoning board of appeals granting the width variance. And in order to get the variance, the appellant would have to prove a practical difficulty or hardship in order to get the dimensional variance. So realistically, even if you take the tact and say, okay, this driveway here, we would approve in theory the additional 2.5 feet on the side of the driveway. It has to go to the zoning board of appeals. If the Historic District Commission does not choose to approve that, then it doesn't even go to the zoning board of appeals. If the Historic District Commission approves it subject to the zoning board of appeals granting the variance, at which point Dr. Shambam would have to show a practical difficulty or hardship as to why he needs it, then at that point in time, he could have it. But until those two things happen, and it will require stops at this board and the zoning board of appeals, that can't happen. That's really where you're at with that. And then other than that, you go through the Secretary of the Interior standards, which we've already been done. So I want to make sure that you understand that this is not a one-stop shop where this cannot be decided in its entirety tonight.
Thank you, Hank. So let's see. So why don't we just do our typical roundtable? So Robert, you get to be first because you're up on the screen first. So
Thank you. Boy, this just gets difficulter and difficulter. I'm confused. The 2.5 foot expansion of the exposed concrete, is there also a second expansion with pavers next to that?
No.
no. So Hank, would you mind sharing your screen
Where,
again, just
where do
real
those
quick?
pavers come in?
So
What
so that
pavers?
there's pavers. There's an existing paver walkway that splits, I think, the two residences. I think that's what,
Correct. I'm
and
not-
that's existing.
I'm not touching. Yeah, that will not be touched.
So I can't draw on the screen,
So
unfortunately.
we're just talking about another 29 inches of concrete.
You're talking about this grayer area right here where my cursor is.
Yes,
This area here is between the two houses.
yes,
This house has a walkway that meshes exactly with this house's walkway back here.
yes.
Those are the same pavers and those exist. This right here has already been approved. It's not exactly where it is. It's not a dimension drawing, but it's this right here is 2.5 feet that comes out over to here and then would butt up to the pavers that would be right here.
So
Okay,
it's
so
the
we're-
gray strip, right? All the way down to the sidewalk, correct, Hank?
You're being
It would
asked
be
to
just to
approve-
the sidewalk.
Yeah, you're being asked to approve a gray strip just down to the sidewalk from the top part of the drive.
And the
And how-
reason it's being changed to an exposed aggregate is what?
So we asked Hank's, or, his thoughts. I'm not sold on any, particular material, whether it be brick paver, whether it be stone, whether it be concrete. And in discussing with Hank, he thought this would be the best option, and it matches my next door neighbor's our driveway. So I don't know if that's the reasoning, but yeah, but I'm not. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. The reasoning for it was that it differentiates the two. In the past, like that was an original pattern that was there before the sidewalk, before the asphalt was added and all the other stuff, the conjectural concrete or pavement on the side of the driveway. So in the past, in the historic district, we've approved things where, for example, a 2-track driveway would have the original 2-track with regular concrete and exposed aggregate to highlight so that you could see what was new and what was old. And the old would be what was the original pattern for it. And the exposed aggregate allowed the original portion of it to be highlighted and setting the difference apart. So that was why we talked about that. Dr. Shamban was not married to that, but since the solution, or since that opportunity had been used elsewhere in the historic district, I thought that perhaps it might be something that he can try. The Historic District Commission and Dr. Shanbam are certainly free to vary from that.
Hank, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but the surface that this proposed aggregate would be abutting is not original. It's part of the approved expansion. Is that right?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, so that abutment, what is the size of that expansion, by the way?
2.5 feet.
So the expansion to the driveway?
The expansion that he's proposing is 2.5 feet.
No. The expansion to the original driveway, what is that dimension?
2.5 feet.
Yep.
So it's 2.5 feet plus 2.5 feet.
No. The original driveway that you approved is proximate to where it was. What you're being asked to approve now is an additional 2.5 feet in width.
Yes, I understand that. The original driveway, though, we approved a width expansion so that it could come straight down.
That is,
Was that only on the left side of the driveway?
It was on the right side.
on the right side.
So
Mhm.
that's my question.
Right.
What is the dimension of our original approved addition?
I don't have that in front of me. All I
So,
have is what he's asking for this evening.
So that means that this proposed expansion would not be butting up to original driveway. It would be abutting to approved additional driveway width.
No, that isn't correct. So essentially, if you go with, it's going to be not identical, but very, very close. I don't have the exact, very, very close to the, because Hank brought it to my attention, you don't want to cover up more surface areas. So essentially, if you look at the current driveway that is now it was approved, it actually abuts much farther. So the dimensions are actually going to be pretty close to what they currently are right now. Does that make sense or not really?
No, it doesn't. If you're adding 30 inches.
But I'm adding I'm adding to the new, but the new took away a lot of dimensions from what is currently present. Does that make sense?
That part makes sense.
So the total, so the summation is actually it's pretty much the same size to what I currently have right now.
You can see, if you take a look at the drawing that's there, where he's talking about remove stump, if you can see what's on the screen.
Yeah.
That area shows a detail of what was paved around the stump. I mean, that whole area was pretty much concreted and asphalted.
I thought that was grass surrounding that stump.
No, that's cement right now, or cement / asphalt. Do you have the original photo, Hank?
No. Wait, I have a house photo.
Yeah, you have a.
Here's our house photo.
Do you have a?
I don't have anything else. I wasn't submitted with anything else.
I mean, if you Google the shoot, because I proposed it in the.
Hold on.
It's from the September or the August meetings.
I thought the stump was in the grass in between. How much of the grass is going to go away?
No grass is going away. It's essentially going in the identical spot because all of that was going to be in the original. So you can't tell the difference essentially. So I'm based off the current, which you guys approved, there's going to be more grass now, essentially more. What I'm putting back is essentially what I currently have right now. Or it'll actually be a little smaller in terms of the width.
If you guys can give me a second, I might be able to get an aerial that would help.
Awesome.
You guys can keep talking. I'm just going to do this.
So they put asphalt around the tree?
Correct.
I thought I remember the lump being in the middle of the grass strip down that separates yours from your neighbor's driveway.
No, there's asphalt and concrete. So it's like mixed.
All right.
Holy moly, what people do to poor trees. I imagine they chopped it down before they asphalted over it.
Can you see that?
Nope.
Hold on. Hold on.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Can you see that?
See
Yeah.
it?
The aerial?
See it?
Yep.
This is the house next door. This is Dr. Shambam's house. Okay, right here. This, if you can see where my cursor is
Yep.
the area delineated by the black line on the other drawing. This is the driveway where it comes straight down. What he's going to do is similar to this, come out over here to the edge of the garage. What he's asking for is an additional 2.5 feet past that. So it would come back almost directly follow the line of the existing, only it would be with the exposed aggregate or whatever material you would approve if it was the pleasure of the commission to approve. Can you guys see that from that drawing, from that aerial? Does that help you?
I understand.
Mm-hmm. So you're essentially going to end up with what you already have now. It's just going to be new concrete and the composite.
Or
Assuming that the
or
zoning
any
board-
other material. Like I said, I wasn't, my initial thought was paver or stone. And, but like I said, in talking with Hank, he thought, the concrete aggregate. So that's.
To differentiate the new from the old, correct? Is that what?
Correct. So, but I'm not sold, like my other aspects, I had more of a feeling, but I have no,
The
not sold to
purpose
any of
again
it.
was not so much to differentiate the new from the old, because it's all going to be new, but was to differentiate the original pattern from the new pattern.
The
And that was
footprint.
So
exactly,
brings
that's
me-
where that was going.
that brings me home to my question, really. In the letter from Tom Matthews, the registered landscape architect who proposes this plan, he wrote, the Shambams would like to expand the north side of their driveway by 2 feet, 5 inches with a more decorative pavement. And that's my issue right there, that this is something decorative. And we have it as proposed, his own wording, a more decorative pavement. We don't do decorative.
So
Why are we doing decorative? We already approved the concrete driveway using the same materials that would have been used when the house was constructed in the 50s. And I think that's where we should stick. We know what was there. It is there. It is a historic record right in front of our own eyes. And that's just it. I don't even like the expansion of another 29 inches. It's a huge amount of concrete up there. It's a huge amount of water runoff.
Mhm.
But what's the difference now, though? I mean, that's what I have right now.
The language, expand the north side of the driveway by 2
No.
feet 5 inches.
It's expand from the new approved, not from the current.
Well, obviously, if you need to go to the zoning board of appeal to ask for permission to do that, then maybe it's a little bit more than was allowable in the first place. And who knows how it got expanded that much, but.
No, I'm confused. No, I know you guys are looking at the language, but it's not essentially what's being proposed. And I get what you're saying. The difference is it's literally going to be the same dimensions as what I currently have right now.
So Hank, could you do
Right.
me a favor? Would you mind if I shared my screen?
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Just because I found something that might drive this discussion a little
I think too that if you take a look
better,
at-
and then
if you take a look at standard 9, and it'll say that the new construction shall not destroy historic materials or characterize the property. It says new work shall be differentiated from the old. And since you can't differentiate it from the old, basically what that particular type of border was looking to do was to differentiate the new from what was originally there, the old pattern. But Chris has that drawing up, and that gives you an exact idea of what we're talking about there.
Thank you. Yeah, that's that. Yeah.
so I'm drawing a couple lines. Sorry, just give me 1 second, and then I'm just gonna confirm with Hank. So the ordinance allows you to align with edges of the driveway, right?
Exactly what you've got.
And it allows for a certain overall maximum width of 18 feet, I do believe you told me,
That is
right?
correct.
So this is what we approved last time, to align with, sort of up in this area right here, right? We were going to, come on, Blue Beam.
So
We
brick
were going
to
to line
brick.
with that edge, and then we were going to line with that edge over there, brick to
Correct.
brick, and come straight down. So that's what is my understanding we approved last time, and we
Right.
discussed that we're going to redo the sidewalk, everything, so it's all new concrete.
Correct.
And then now the confusion I think that I'm having, and originally, so I'm gonna, sorry, just bear with me, is that you want to come in here and you want to add another 2'5" border. Sorry, not as delicate as I'd like, but a new 2'5" border of exposed aggregate, except it will only go to the sidewalk.
Exactly.
So this area in here is really where we're trying. This is the ask, right? That 2'6" or 2'5" wide exposed aggregate on the side. Now that
Correct.
is subject because it's still part of the pavement. So it does not align with the edge of the house, which means Hank is saying that you will need to, so since it does not align there, you can see that it clearly does not, that this is subject to a zoning variance.
That is correct.
If you had made the choice to say, I'm going to just take 2'6" and move it over here and make it part of that approved with, then you wouldn't have a variance. But since you are moving it out beyond, you have a variance issue, but you're still asking us to approve that strip and exposed aggregate.
Correct.
And your drawing does, so I'll stop sharing unless this is helpful.
I find it helpful. Thank you,
It's-
Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
No, sorry, I do this all.
I mean, I understood it before, but this graphically puts it in front of us
So-
and it gives a clear comprehension.
As
Thank
you can see, all of this cement, or asphalt or whatever that is, that's all coming out. So that's, that's
Which
not,
is a good thing, because it's ugly.
wow.
I know that you
Exactly.
didn't put it there,
So,
and
no, so
I
that's
understand you're
why-
trying to make it nicer. So I
Yes.
applaud you for removing that out of there. I just,
Right, so. But in terms of what I'm adding to the overall picture in terms of it's about the same, because this whole is coming out, and essentially what I'm adding, you know, if you look at, yeah.
That's, I mean, that's all brand new. And then this highlighted thing is what the ask is.
Correct.
This was, the gray was approved, the yellow is the ask.
For point of clarification, Mr. Chairman, even though what he has now is bigger than that, once you tear it out a non-conforming structure, you lose your vested right to have it.
Right.
That's zoning law.
Yeah.
So once he tears that out, he's not automatically entitled to it back. And I think that's where part of the confusion lies.
Right.
If
So-
he chooses to keep what he has, then he can keep what he has. But as soon as he tears that out, he can't have it any longer, which is why he has to go through this. So it's not just cutting a swipe through the existing. He's going to take it out, pour an additional finish on that. And then once he does that, he loses his vested right to have it, meaning he has to go to the zoning board of appeals.
Hank, what does the ordinance speak to with walkways attaching to your
3
driveway?
feet to
You
the
can
inside,
outside of your car once you open the door.
3 feet to the inside of the structure, you can have a walkway.
Does that, would that allow any of this area under that provision?
No,
Can't you just drive your car more towards the center so that you can make room for people to get out?
Sorry?
I don't know what his motivation is, Martha. I'm just only addressing what
I
the,
know, I
what I
just-
thought the ordinance read. Or just questioning what it read.
right.
I
I know exactly where you're going with this, Steve. I mean, the thing is that you can have exactly what was approved from the HDC. Once you go past what's approved by the HDC, then you go to a different board, which is the zoning board of appeals in this particular instance, which he's certainly welcome to do. But if the HDC doesn't approve it contingent upon zoning board of appeals approval, it dies right here.
But I thought you have to clarify this once more, and I'm sorry for belaboring this, but this goes way back. I haven't been on the planning commission, so I'm not up with all the ordinances, but weren't you allowed an 18-foot driveway and then a 3-foot walkway on the side of it? Would give you,
No, you're allowed
it's
an
gotta
18-foot driveway, a 3-foot walk to the inside
So Steve, it would have to be, you know,
on the other side.
it would
On
have to
the
be
other
over
side, okay.
here,
Right.
okay, thank you for clarifying.
Because
Yeah.
it's too close to the
the neighbor's
property
property.
line, correct?
Well, you can have concrete right up to the property line. That's allowable in any of our ordinances.
So theoretically, Dr. Shanbon could only remove the portion of the existing concrete or asphalt or whatever it is outside of that 2.5 or 2'5" area and keep that 2'5" area from what he has right now.
Yeah, I
He
don't
could
know
be
why.
left with a strip that looks like that. Is that correct? Could he do
Yeah.
that without anybody's approval?
That is correct, although I don't know why he'd do that if he's paying money for a new driveway.
I know, well.
Wait, say that again?
He has
That's-
options that are so much.
Sounds like a good idea.
He's got options that are so much more detrimental to the project that he could be allowed to do. But here we are wishing to disallow something that he has an option that would be far, far more detrimental to everybody should he choose to exercise it.
Wait, say that again? I misunderstood. So essentially I can leave this there?
I think, I don't know, according to what Hank said, and the way I'm reading the ordinance, you could leave a 2.5-foot strip of their pre-existing pavement there and put in the new driveway as approved and
Except for,
leave that whole, you could leave that whole area there that's.
except in this case, it was approved with that coming out.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry,
says-
you can't
Okay.
undo that.
No, listen, I'm trying to work with you guys. I'm just trying to make it, as everyone wants, aesthetically more pleasing, but that's not really the aesthetic purpose. It's really just, when you get out, of the car, it'd be nice to get off on some solid material, whether it be stone or,
The
I'm
way
sorry?
that
I have a comment I'd like to make, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Looking at that driveway, looking at the dimensions that have already been approved, I don't see you're gonna have any problem getting out of a car and landing on concrete.
Right.
That's quite a wide driveway for even two cars next to each other. There's less than 6 feet across. Every car's about 5'6" across.
I mean, as you can tell by the damage on both sides, I apparently that's an issue.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, the issues that are before you tonight are to either A, approve the border out of some material, B, deny the border of any material, or C, pass it with the approval. It has to go to the zoning board of appeal anyway. So you either approve it in some material or you deny it and it stops here, but the approval goes to the zoning board of appeals. You could approve it and it still can get denied at the zoning board of appeals.
So just because I have not been sensitive, I guess I would ask, this is
I'm sorry, you
part
broke
of
up.
gone officially around the horn. Am I back or not?
Yeah, you're
Yeah, we
back.
can hear you.
Okay, so are there any other commissioners who'd like to ask some questions? Because I do have to at least ask for public participation as well to be sensitive of time. So is there anybody else who would like to speak about this or ask some questions? Go ahead, Mark.
I'm still looking at the photograph that Chris has up. And I'm still confused in part. I see the red lines indicating what we have already approved. And I look at the application and I see a request to go beyond the red line on the north side, which is the right side as we're looking at it. That puts it outside the actual garage itself.
Yep.
Down the side of the garage.
That's correct.
Okay.
So
Now-
this is the red line that sort of I had drawn diagrammatically in that photograph, and we can go back to that. And you can see that that gray bar is to the north of that line.
That's correct.
Okay, may I take control of this just so I can move the cursor around?
Absolutely. So do you want the photograph or the plan, Mark? I'm sorry.
The photograph.
Okay, there you, it should be up.
Okay. So you can see my cursor moving.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not clear on what happens with that section of the driveway.
That comes out upon the construction of the new driveway.
We approved that as part of our original motion from what I remember, and it does say removed in this photograph, which is from the original application. That's where I got this from.
Okay, now again, moving my cursor up toward the blue thing in the right center, the driveway does not extend up to that blue thing or the front of the garage, correct?
That part does not.
It's like, yeah, there's a small gap, but yes, it's predominantly, it goes up pretty high, but correct.
Okay, so anything beyond the front of the garage would be totally new. Is that correct?
Wait, what? What do you,
Anything beyond this line and going this way would be new.
Yes.
only for, maybe like 1 foot. See the green, there's a small green gap. It's very, very small. There's not any asphalt or concrete there.
And then you hit the existing brick walkway. Is that true?
Correct. And then you hit the existing brick walkway.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the new walkway you want to put in would run through the driveway and over to here. Is that correct?
No,
Through the driveway.
Gonna
and-
be
mean,
alongside.
Yeah, aside it. It doesn't bisect it. You have it bisecting
It
it.
would follow right here
It's
where
gonna
my
go
cursor's going.
right up there.
Follow the outside line of the driveway.
From
Yeah,
here.
just
all
Here, let me draw a line real quick. Just, I know it's not 100% accurate, but it goes to from the sidewalk.
And then it curves back in.
It does curve back in. I don't have this 100% per the plan, but I'll just skip back to this. Oh, this drawing.
There you go.
So, oops, and here I go. Let's try that again.
There you go.
There we go. So you can see that it follows the edge of the driveway from the existing city walk, 2'5" across, up to the existing brick walk at the top side.
Okay, can you scroll up a little bit?
Sure. Oops, there you go.
So Hank, the
So-
variance would only
Me,
be
like,
required from the curve of the driveway up.
It looks to me as though that,
The variance would be required from right here.
looks to me like that brick extension bisects the driveway. From this point here. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
The brick
no.
doesn't go all the way down, Mark. The brick stops right about here.
So Hank, just correct me if I'm wrong, but the brick stops somewhere right up in here.
That is
Yes.
correct. That is
Yeah.
correct.
And the intent, so I'm going to say it's basically the face of the garage somewhat. And you're
Correct.
trying to bring this walk to the face of that. And then,
Exactly.
right of the face of the garage.
Okay, I understand now. I'm
yeah,
clear.
okay, sorry. All right, good, because that, I don't have to draw.
But you do it so well.
Blue beam is not my specialty, but it's okay. I do this a lot. But anyways, so, okay. So Mark, do you have any other discussion that you need?
No, I think I'm clear on it now.
So I think we've heard from Robert, we've heard from Steve. Martha, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
And then who am I missing? Rick?
Yeah, the only thing that I have to add is I don't think there's any hardship here and at all. And I think he'll lose in the Board of Appeals.
Okay, so at this point in time, because I'm sharing my screen, I'm not seeing everybody. Do you want me to stop sharing now?
Yeah, why don't you stop sharing so we can get everybody back up, Chris?
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I just wanted to see if there's anybody else on the call. I don't see anybody on the call from the public for public participation. So hearing that there is none, we'll just close public participation. And I guess we're at the point for a motion. And as Hank indicated, whatever we do, the motion, whether it's, if it is an approval, then the motion would be subject to ZBA approval. And again, I'm going to say that what I see on the table is a 2-foot, I can't tell if it's 5 or 6 because it's a little bit conflicting. That
5.
would 2'5" from the sidewalk parallel to the driveway to the face of the garage, and it was indicated as exposed aggregate concrete. That's what I saw. If anybody has any corrections, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the addition to the driveway at 26323 Henry as presented in an exposed aggregate concrete, and that it meets all the standards.
Subject to approval of the,
Subject to approval of the zoning board of appeals.
thanks. Is there a second to that motion? Hearing none, we have no motion. Does anybody else have a motion?
Move to deny the application.
Second.
So Mark made the motion. Rick was the second. Any discussion needed?
There's no public, just for the record.
No, but don't we have a chance to at least negotiate over the motion?
Yes, you do, but I just, as far as public participation.
Yeah, I closed that already. So if there's any discussion among the commission over the motion that's put forth?
No.
Yeah. Do you guys have suggestions or there's no room for debate?
Motion's been made. I don't think we can further discuss it.
No.
Oh, you can have discussion on the motion, but if there's any amendments, that both the maker and the second would have to accept that. But if there's nothing forthcoming, then, call the question.
Just
Call the vote.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion to deny the applicant? If we could just go around the room again, Robert,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Martha,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Steve,
No,
and I'll vote yes. So what does that mean?
It's
That
five
means
denials.
that the proposal's denied.
Thank you.
Dr. Shambam, you're free to come with another proposal to a subsequent meeting.
I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know what I could present because I didn't get any. I mean,
Well,
any feedback or?
I mean, the feedback basically, as I took it, and of course, people can correct me if I'm wrong, is that they were opposed to the idea of expanding it with any material because it didn't meet the historic character. And as far as you would have to satisfy them in some respect that you could come up with something that would, and then you still would have to satisfy the zoning board of appeals that it was a practical difficulty or hardship as to a reason that you needed it.
But I mean, historic. Okay.
If you've got a question, now's a good time to ask it.
Yeah,
while
I
people are
mean,
here.
historic. I mean, would a different material be more satisfying? Because, like I said, I wasn't married to any of the materials, so.
Chris, you might want to go around the table and ask
Sure.
if anybody has.
Okay,
Good
Robert,
question.
do you have any comment to that recommendation about materiality? Or is it configuration?
It is configuration.
Rick,
Yeah, same thing. It's just too much.
Martha?
It's the configuration and the mass. I think what you have, what we already approved is going to be beautiful for you. And I think you'll find that it will work. And it goes nicely with your home.
Mark, do you have any comments?
Nothing further.
Steve, do you have any comments?
I've made my comments.
I don't have any additional comments right now. I think I guess if I were to say that, just keeping it flat concrete probably would have been better. It seemed like it was a sort of an appendage that was oddly planned. And, I understand the need, but it just seemed like maybe needs a little bit more thought about what it could be just from a configuration standpoint. So.
I mean, like I said, very similar to what's on the block. I mean, in a lot of houses similar, I mean, use the bluestone, but again, we chose the concrete aggregate because that's what was suggested. But I mean, it's similar to what's, they have this, just similar. It's actually literally two houses down. They have cement with bluestone as their, the kind of. But I think the only difference is it's on the opposite side of the driveway. So it's close to, mine goes towards the backyard. Theirs goes towards the
front of the house.
The front of the house. And I think that's the difference, but.
And that actually would not require a variance.
Right.
That would not require a variance.
Correct.
So would that require a historic approval?
Yes.
Yes.
So if I proposed that on the opposite side, would that, and again, I'm just, would that likely get approved, not get approved, or?
It's improper for us to say that, whether or not we.
You'd have to propose a diagram to show what it is. They'd have to have something to approve. Right now, what you have is on the other side of the driveway.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'd like to
Well-
make a motion,
Please do so.
a motion to adjourn.
So just real quick before we do that, Hank, I just want to make sure there's no other outstanding business that I needed to address tonight.
There is not.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for your patience with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.